In this video tutorial, we'll be recreating the Sumeru 4-leaf sigil and Liyue Fish Traversal mechanic. So let's start off with going to the prefab library. We'll add an empty model. Disable the native collision. And we are looking for the VFX. We're going to go advanced editing on that. I'm going to add a looping. I've looked this up already. Charge halo. This one. I'll go with this one. This one looks better. Next, we need to add a scan tag. Add a scan tag component here. And we need to add a scan tag in Explorer. If you click this, it says it doesn't work in this kind of like tab. We're going to switch back to entity placement. On the top left, click the kind of grid icon here. And then we're going to scroll down and find scan tag management. In scan tag management, we're going to create a new scan tag template. Yeah, let's stick with the default icon, and we can leave these VFX assets blank. These are just additional VFX that can be playing whenever the scan tag is either activated, available, or disabled. For now, won't leave. We will make the detection range to, let's say, free, so that when the character is like next to it, you won't be able to like zoom back in. That means that when you zoom into one Sumeru sigil, he can easily go to another one without like going back to the same one. So with that scan tag template saved, let's actually change the Sumeru sigil tag, because we'll be making another one later. Let's go back to the prefab and go to here. Let's actually name this Sumeru sigil 2. We'll go to scan tag here. Now we can select our Sumeru sigil tag. Next, we need to save this first. And then next, we need to go to the combat preset. We'll need to add our skill. Allows us to traverse. So we'll just call it traversal. We'll change the icon. Let's see, this one kind of fits. Make sure that allow cast in the mid-air is available, because our player will often be in mid-air to like go to the other sigils. Next, let's go to the animation editor. The actual animation here doesn't matter because we will end up hiding the character. But I'm just going to go with this general chat in place precast. Kind of looks like this. And we need to add a node graph for this. But before we add a node graph, let's first save this. Save this skill for now. We want to go to the player here on the top left. Switch to class. Go to the middle tab for all the skills. We're gonna switch active skill to 1, and we'll just add traversal to that skill so that it's within this class. Now let's go into the Miliastra sandbox. So I'm gonna drag my window here. So in the Miliastra sandbox, we want to go to Window and open up the Client Node Graph Research Explorer, because what we're doing is we want to create a character skill node graph, and that's in a client node graph. So we'll open up this folder, right click, create a node graph, and we'll name the skill Traversal. Double click on it, and what we're looking for is we're looking for scan component. We're looking for, let's see, yes. So this will return one entity that is currently scanned by a scan component. So it could be empty. So we'll check if it's empty. Give it a branch. So if there isn't anything, we're not gonna, if there's nothing, no scan tag active, we're not gonna do anything. But if there is, we're going to, actually no, if there isn't, because this is checking if it's empty. If there isn't anything empty, which means there is something, we want to check, we want to do a fixed point displacement, and the location of it, we want to get the location down. put it here. We could, let's see, terminate displacement collision. So do we want the displacement, the movement to stop when it collides? Sure. For now, let's just give it a preset like this. We'll have actual values, but that's the traverse skill as its core, at its core. And now we can go back to the skill here, go to animation editor, and we can add that traversal skill we just made. And we can save this first, and we can quickly test this out just to make sure we should be, actually no, before we test it out, we actually need to plop it down. So we're gonna put it mid-air here. Then now we can, okay. If that happens, to please wait. It's probably just waiting for it to load. So I'm gonna wait a bit. Okay, there we go. So I'm gonna disable these so it loads a bit faster. Okay, and if we look up here, did I put it too high? Sorry. Yeah, when we press E, we go towards it. Obviously, the duration is a bit higher than it takes to get there, so those values needs to be changed a bit. Oh, it might be because let's just check something. Let's see if it's because it's a bit too high. We can check the scan tag management here. So we currently have the effective as 3 meters to 10. 3 might actually be too high. Let's make it as like 1.5. 1.5 seems, so this should now be a bit more viable. Because we might have been too close despite not looking like. Now, actually, you know what? I think it's the 10 meters. Let's increase the range from the 10 meters to like 20. Yeah, from here to here, it's 10. So we definitely want it to be like 20, because the default spawn is like barely 10 meters to it. We'll make it a 20. That gives us a good amount of distance for us to activate the scan tag. See, yep, that's a lot better. Goes there, reach that. Okay, so to hide a player and add a VFX when the player is traversing, we need to actually mark and know when the player is actually traversing. To do that, let's go to combat preset, and we will be using the unit status to mark when the player is actually traversing. So we'll name it Sumeru Traversal. We're gonna give it, no, not this. We're gonna give it 0.1 initial duration, and we're gonna pick this toggle so that we can change the duration with the stacks. So each stack of this status will give us 0.1. So if we want the player to traverse 1 second, it will be 10. Next, we want to have it so that only the earliest instance of the stack is applied. These other settings are like, if there's 2 instances, if there's already an instance applied to it, then because we only allow 1 instance of it, this makes it so that another instance can't be applied. This one makes it so that the minimum up time remaining will be removed. And this is update time instead of application time. So we want this enabled so that when we traverse from one Sumeru sigil to the other, before the duration is ended, we can still allow the player to traverse to another sigil, and then we'll just remove the stacks, the instance of the first traversal. So next thing we need, last thing is we want the maximum stack layers. This is set to 1. That makes it so that it only lasts with 0.1 because we can't have stacks. There's just 1. Let's change it to 200. That makes it to be 20 seconds because each stack is 0.1. The 20 seconds is a pretty good enough time, I feel like. I don't think the player's gonna reverse that far. Next, we want the effects. We'll be using character hidden. Disable gliding so that the player can glide and move around. Next, we want fall efficiency. By default, when you're traversing with fixed point displacement, gravity is kind of negated, but gravity is still kind of, the acceleration of gravity is still accumulated, it's just not applying. So we're going to make it so that none of the gravity is being applied. This will come in handy later when we're trying to make the characters kind of have a slow fall afterwards. You'll see in quite a few later. So we'll have it at negative 200, which is lowest it can go, which makes it, basically makes it have no gravity. So let's save this. Oh, one last thing. Well, the character hidden here, it needs to actually have a Boolean local filter that returns no. Because by default, without a local filter, this actually returns true. But the gimmick with this character hidden is when it's true, it's actually making the character partially hidden instead of full on hidden. So let's go to the sandbox here. In the client Node Graph Resource Explorer, if you don't have that, make sure you can toggle it for a window. In the Boolean filter nodes, I'm going to create a new Boolean filter. Cut always no. And because I can't just plug in no or false, what we're going to do is I'm going to have a not operation and set it to yes, because not yes is no. Save this. And we can just plug in that filter. This will always return no, so that will make it fully hidden. Next, we want to go to the player here, and we want to give it the VFX. So within player template, go to edit character, because we're editing the character here. VFX play, advanced editing, add VFX. We're looking for a looping. Choose whatever looping effect you want. I am going for this one. Colorful ascending halo. It looks like this. Want it to be a little bit bigger, and I'll also want it to be around the chest area. That looks good. Next, we will need to have a Boolean filter for this VFX to determine when it's actually displayed or not, because we don't want it to be always displayed. We only want it to be displayed when the character is doing that Sumeru traversal status. So, back to the sandbox. We'll make a Boolean filter here, and we'll make a Sumeru hidden status is on. And we'll set self entity, which is because the VFX is on the player, on the character to be specific, and self entity will be the character. We're going to check. We're going to whether the entity has a specified unit status. So this will check for the unit status. We need the ID for that. Go to the unit status. On the top right here, you see this copy icon. You can copy the configuration ID, paste it here. Excellent. So now it will check if the character has this particular status. If it does, it turns true. If it doesn't, it turns no. Go back to the VFX here. And we're going to set that. Excellent. Next, what we need to do is we need to add the unit status to the character. And we want to do that in the traversal. So go back to the character skill, Node Graphs, go to traversal that we made. I'm going to add unit status. And here. And we want to add it to the character because the character is the one casting the skill. So self is one we want. Next, we want the unit status. I already had it copied still, so I can just paste it. If you don't, you can go back and copy again. Next is the stacks. The stacks is basically how long the duration is going to last. So if it lasts for 1 second, it should be 10 stacks. We could just put in 50 stacks here, but we kind of want this to actually be a bit more variable. It should depend on how far we are to the Sumeru sigil. So let's actually make the displacement speed here also a bit variable. So let's go back to the character here instead of this. In player template, edit character, we're going to add a custom variable here. We are going to make a float variable, and we're going to name it displacement speed. This will allow us to change the actual speed however we want. We can even change it in the Node Grpah. Copy this displacement speed text. I'm going to go back to the sandbox here. We're going to get the self entity, which is the character. And then we're going to get custom variable. And then listen. Next is we want to know the duration. So now that we know the actual speed, we can determine how long the duration should be. To do that, we want to get the Sumeru sigil's location, which is this here. And we want to subtract it with the character's location. Character's location. And then next, we want to get the magnitude of this result. So using the modular operation, we can get the magnitude. And then we want to divide that by the speed. And that will give us the duration. And with this being the duration, we can divide this by 0.1, which is how much each stack is worth. And we need to convert this to an integer because stacks are integers, they're not float. And plug this in. Yep. And that should be good for this node graph. We this and we can go back to entity placement here. We should be able to test play this. Let's check if I did something wrong. Excellent. Yeah, as long as we're within an active, doesn't matter how far or close we are. It gets the exact amount of duration with that fixed 5 speed that we set. And hides the character, shows the VFX. Next, we kind of want the player to kind of have a slower fall when they reach the sigil. Because right now, they just kind of fall down, which doesn't give them enough time to kind of figure things out. Well, we'll give them a bit more leeway. So let's go back to the combat preset here, and we'll add a status. We'll call it slow fall player. And we'll give it a fixed duration of 2. And then effect details, we will have fall efficiency. Fall efficiency change value. Set to -195. There's a little bit of deceleration, just not floating, but they're slowly falling down. So next, we'll be using go to sandbox and go to the server node graph. We'll be using a status node graph. So this is node graphs just for status. So let's create status node graph. What should I call it? We'll call it slow. No, this is going to be for the Sumeru status. So Sumeru status. Name Sumeru status. So in this one, we're gonna look for this event node when unit status ends. So this status node graph, we're gonna attach it to the Sumeru status. What is it called again? This one, Liyue Traversal status. We make it Liyue Traversal status. So when we're attaching it to that status, when this unit status ends, let's see, it should be removal reason. So there's different kind of removal reasons. It returns an enumeration, so different types of values here. We're looking for duration exceeded. So when it naturally expires, we want to do something. We want to, yes, so we want to add a unit status. Want to add it to self entity. And we want to, let's see, what was low fall? Let's copy this one. case, one stack. That's it. We don't really need to apply entity in this case. We don't need either of these, so this is fine. So whenever let's attach the Sumeru. So to attach it, this part here, status node graph, we can attach this to Sumeru, add this node graph right there. So what happens is whenever the character has this status on, it will also have this node graph associated to the character. Let's actually test it out. This should work. What we're expecting to see is when we reach the sigil, the character should fall slow. Kind of slower for 2 seconds, and then normal gravity applies. So we got the Sumeru sigil kind of traversal version done. Let's do the Liyue kind of fish version. So let's go to the prefab library. Let's make an empty model here. Name it Liyue Fish. Disable native collision. And we want to add a VFX just like the Sumeru. Looping effects. What did I had it set effect? At school of fish. This one. Okay, yeah, there we go. And I think I want to reduce the size of this. Takes a second. Yeah, that looks good. We'll also add a second one. We can add multiple. We'll name. We're looking for Blue Halo. Yeah, looping. Blue Halo. There's multiple. This one. Or this one. Go with the first one. First one looks. Yeah. And we don't have to change the zoom. See, combine together, preview. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. All right, let's save this. Now we need to add a scan tag. And we need to go to the scan tag management. So grid, scan tag management. Oh, we gotta switch back to entity here. Create a new scan tag template. We'll name it Liyue Fish tag. And there's a fish icon. Now let's use the fish icon. Make it 1.5, 20. Good rate. Okay. Go back to fish. And advanced editing with the scan tag. Okay. Let's just quickly test and oh, hold on. Put one there. Well, one thing is I can't really tell which one's the Sumeru one, which one's the Liyue one, unless I click on it. What we can do is we can give it a model. There's something. Let's do Dendro. Do Dendro for. Then we give it. Go to unit status. Hide character. Hide object model. Object model. So what we're doing is we're essentially going to infinite duration here. We're gonna be having, let's see, object hidden, object invisible. So what this does when we apply it onto our prefab, it'll have infinite duration of this hide object model. The object model itself would be hidden, but that's the sphere effects. The effects would still be visible. Do the same here. Add a decoration, do a collision. Then we'll hit the geo. Now, I can place this, and I can tell which one's which. Okay, this Sumeru. I go to test play. Oh, okay. I must have not put it. Yeah. I didn't. I only added model, didn't put the status. You can see a difference there. This one has the status, this one doesn't. So let's go to the fish here and add the status. There we go. So now, when we actually test it out, see here. So you can't see the object models. This still works and acts like a Sumeru sigil. So what we need to do is we need to differentiate between these. We'll be modifying the node graphs and we'll be adding some more unit status. So let's add the status first. Let's go to the combat preset, go to unit status. We can actually, let's categorize this a bit, clean it up. So let's add a tab here now. Just gonna move these, change. This one goes to Sumeru. This one also goes to Sumeru. That one's generic. All right. We'll name this one Liyue Traversal. So similar to the Sumeru one. We need to give it this. It will have 0.1 duration. This is all very similar. Not gonna explain thing. We want the effects of let's see. No. Hide player character. Wait, hold on. Character hidden. Character hidden. We'll use the always no bullying it. We don't disable gliding. Then that's it. We don't really have to get the fall efficiency one, so we'll just leave that. Double check. Yep. The ones are pointing to effects. Okay, great. Okay, this. Next status. Liyue float. So this is going to be an infinite duration status. And this one is when we're at the fish spot and we want the character be able to choose where to look and launch themselves. So that's the state the character will be in. So this one we want the fall efficiency. So no gravity here. We want no gliding. Then you want character hidden also. Let's see. Fall efficiency, disable. Yep. Want to. Yep. That looks good to me. Okay, next we want to have, let's go back to the player here. Go to character and go to VFX. Let's add a new VFX. We'll name this one Sumeru. This one, looping effect. And I am going to choose, well, Geo Elemental. Look up, there we go. Also move this area, so that looks good. This is supposed to be a Liyue Traversal effect. The next one, we want another one, which is the Liyue. We'll call it a float effect. Will be a looping one also, and we'll use, let's see, your project. Similar but different. We'll put it to... Okay. Next, we need to have the Boolean node graphs to determine if they're disabled or not. So let's go to the sandbox and incline node graph, this section here. Go to Boolean filters. Let's create 2 filters. First one, I want to name it, let's see, I'll just name it Liyue Traversal VFX. And I'll name this Liyue Float VFX. So these are for VFX. You know what, we could also just add in the tackle. So from a glance, we know these are for the VFX. This one's for character hidden. Let's do a traversal first. So we're looking at self entity. And we're just doing the same thing. Just checking if unit status is corresponding to the Liyue Traversal one. So let's go back to here. Traversal, Liyue. This. Then this one. Float. Actually, just be easy. Let's copy it right up here. And we just have to replace the status. D, copy this. There we go. So now the VFX can toggle depending if we add a status or not. So next thing we need to do is we need to go to the traversal scale here. And currently, doesn't matter what kind of scan tag we have, it will just do the Sumeru version. But we don't want to do that. Drag this a little bit. And we want it to have a branch here. Disconnect this link. We want to check if the scan tag config ID is equal to this Sumeru version. So the scan tag configuration ID, in this case, I believe if I go to prefab, I want to go to the scan tag management. Yeah, there we go. Configuration ID. This one, copy the Sumeru version, paste that here. So if it's the Sumeru version, we want to do this. These lines will get a bit messy. If it isn't, we can assume it's the Liyue one, but I'm just going to, for future use case, if you happen to have another scan tag, we might as well check for that too. So let's get the Liyue one, copy this. If it isn't the Sumeru one, let's check if it's the Liyue one. And then if it's neither, it'll do nothing. Case. Do kind of the same thing. Yeah, so let's plug in all the same nodes. Speed, the duration is the same. Speed is the same here. And then the location is also same. The difference is adding in status. Stacks are the same. We're adding the unit status, which is, go to the status here. Traversal. The traversal one. So this essentially does the same thing. So let's actually quickly test it out before we add more stuff. So what we're expecting to see with this test play is we should see a different VFX. It should behave exactly the same as Sumeru, except there should be this VFX that we're seeing right now. I think I forgot to plug in the boolean. Let's see, character. Yeah, I added it. I forgot to plug it in. Remember to plug these in. So this one's traversal. This one's float. Check. This is why we test before I do a lot of stuff. Because I don't want to do a lot. I don't want to do multiple takes of this recording. I've already done a couple. Alright, let's see. So this one's the Sumeru, the Liyue one. Okay. Excellent. Fine. And the Sumeru one works just as well. Okay. So we're going to add a status node graph for the Liyue Traversal status. So let's go into our sandbox here. Go to the server side. Here, create status node graph. Let's name it Liyue Traversal status. Like this. Status. Event. When unit status ends. So, want to check if it's when its duration has exceeded. Branch here. Add a unit status. Want to add the float. Want to apply it to self, which is the character. The one stacks because it's infinite duration. Let's get the nope, not this one. Get the ID. Then we'll paste it here. Next, we need to actually apply this status node graph. There we go. And then we can test it. So we're going to test it. And there's going to be some problems. And I'll explain exactly why the problems exist. So Liyue hold that status is in effect because you can see that's the VFX we have. However, we still fell down. And we're like, wait, didn't we put a fall efficiency? Yes, we kind of did. Let's double check. We do have the fall efficiency. The issue is actually this. If we look at the sandbox node graph here, notice how this is a server node graph. And notice how this is when unit status ends. So there can exist a very split second of time where the Liyue Traversal status ends and the character is falling a bit. And then we add a unit status. So that little second between having the status ending and then we adding status, that little bit of time could accumulate some gravity. Because fall efficiency only makes it so that no more additional gravity acceleration is applied. And sometimes you can visually see this when the character is suddenly visible because when the traversal status is on, the character is hidden. When we add the float status, the character is hidden. But between that, there could be no status at all, which means the character is visible. So, to fix this, what we're going to do is we're just gonna have a new status, the Liyue hidden and float. We'll give this infinite duration. We're gonna add the character hidden here. Set to always no. And then we're gonna add the fall efficiency here. Negative to 100. We can now remove these effects here. We can remove this one. We can remove this one. We can actually put the disable glider into here too. But I'm a bit lazy. You know what? Yeah, let's move the gliding one also. And we'll add the gliding one. These two status that we had are just essentially they're just used as timers and states. So lighting. So now we go back to the client side, go to traversal. And we are, let's actually, little tip, you can add in notes here. Because these look exactly the same. We're gonna add in a notes. Add a unit status. One stack. And let's copy. Yep. So now, when we do the traversal and it's Liyue, we will apply that disable glider, character hidden, and floating status right from the start. And now we actually stay on top of here. So there's actually another issue. Let's actually go back in. I shouldn't have exited that. Let's go back in. There's another minor issue. Some other edge cases. For example, if I go here and then I go here, okay, the hold status is the infinite one. So we gotta remove it when we actually traverse. There's a couple of places where we gotta remove these infinite duration ones. So let's go to the traversal here. First things first is when we actually do any kind of traversal, we want to remove status. So let's say remove unit status. Unplug this. We want to remove the hold status. Hold one. The float one, not the hold one. Float one, and we set the self first. Make sure it's self that's being removed. Next, we want to remove the hidden one. This one. Now, there's another thing is when we... Wait, let's plug this in first. Also, move everything across. So when you do the Liyue Traversal, you could instantly go back to the Sumeru one. And we want to remove the Liyue one. So just in case... So actually, before I do this, let's see what it looks like, right? Let's not do too many changes. Let's just see how it looks like. So what we should see... Let's go to the Liyue one. Loading. And... kind of works. You notice how... Yeah. So there's some more edge cases we want to check for. Like, we haven't reached the destination, but some of the statuses are still there. In this case, the this status here is the float one. Let's see, when does it keep having it? Right. The reason why you have the float here is because the traversal for the Liyue one is still existing. And then when that one ends, it gives a float status. So, let's go to traversal here. Whenever we add this, I think it'll be fine. We tackle it on the end. We want to remove unit status. Remove some units. I want to remove the... This one's the Liyue Traversal one. And then this one's the... It's also... Basically, we're just removing everything this side of the path has. Correspondingly, I want to remove the Sumeru side. But yeah. So, when we're running the Sumeru path up here, we're adding the Sumeru Traversal, and we're removing any potential Liyue and Liyue Traversal and Liyue Float ones. Same here, when we run the Liyue path, we're adding the Liyue status, the two of those, and then we're removing the Sumeru one. Say, oh, do we need to remove previous ones? No, because we already have within the unit status, we already set that. So we already have this source setting where it only has the earliest application time. As in the earliest app applied one will get removed. So it doesn't matter if it's the same one, we just need to remove these other status for the two paths. So now if we test it, that should cover the edge cases. So here looks fine. You notice how sometimes you can see that split second of the character being visible. That's okay. I think I might have glitched it. Let's do some serious debugging just to make sure. Let's also add some more sigils. Let's check it with Sumeru sigil, Liyue Fish sigil. These are kind of things you want to test for when you're building your own kind of creations. It's close enough. This one. Yeah, this should be good. So we have like 2 Sumeru ones, 2 Liyue ones. I'm showing this debugging process because it's not all like fun and games. Okay, what happens if we go here? That looks fine. What happens if we go back and forth? Okay. I think that's okay-ish. Oh, we gotta test the Sumerus, right? These look fine. So overall, it's fine except for some weird latency ones, I think. They were spamming it like rapidly. So we're gonna leave that as it is. So the next thing we need to do is we want to actually launch the player. When they're in this state, they should be able to look wherever they want, left click, and they shoot out. So let's add a unit status. We're adding a lot of unit status in this tutorial. We'll name it Liyue Launch. And we will give it... We're going to have it so that we can determine how long it actually lasts. Make sure you have the maximum stack layers up. 200's good. So that's like 20 seconds. Next, we need to add... Let's see. We don't need to hide a player. We don't need to disable the gliding because we're all doing it here. So we actually don't need to do anything to it. It's just like these where there's like no effects to it. We're just using it as a kind of a timer status. All right. So next, we need to modify our traversal effect. So let's actually go into the sandbox here. Go to the Boolean Node Grpah within your client Explorer. Traversal effects. So we are going to actually use the same effect here. We're going to check if it is the launch status. So if it's either of this, so we can just set or. If it's the traversal status or the launch status, we want it to use this effect. Next, we want to actually have a launch skill. So let's go here. Yeah, go to skill here and we call it launch. And you know what? This icon looks fine. So allow cast in mid-air, and we'll just do the similar thing with traversal. The actual animation doesn't really matter because we're trying to hide a player, and then we need to add a launch here. So let's quickly sandbox character skill, create skill node graph, name it launch. So plug it in here. We don't have to add it to the class because we're going to add it dynamically. Like whenever there's the Liyue float status, we'll slot this into the normal tag slot. So to do that, we need to use a status node graph. So we're going to have a status node graph for Liyue float status. Just create this, and just because I always forget, I've done multiple recordings where I forget to associate the status with the node graph. Associate this first. Liyue float status, save it. All right, now let's edit this. So what we'll be using here is we're using unit status changes. So unit status changes, this occurs whenever it gets added, the stacks are different, it ends. That's all this event will call. So you can see like remaining status duration, whatnot. Because we know that the float status is infinite duration. And infinite duration won't be yes when we're moving it. So we can check if it's yes. So if it is yes, we want to add a character skill. In this case, the character is self entity. And we want to have the skill slot to be normal, and we'll preserve the slot binding. So if you had something in the normal attack slot, it will preserve that, and then once this is removed, it will keep that original. Skill config ID, let's go to skill here and copy the config ID. Next, we need to actually remove this. So when we're out of the float status, when we actually launched it, we want to remove the character skill. In this case, we doesn't matter if it's when float. Well, float never really ends because it's infinite duration. So just as long as the float status ends, we want to remove the character skill for the launch. There we go. Next, we want to actually configure the launch one. So the way the launch works is we're going to get the camera data. In this case, the camera orientation detection data. This can find a target. So it could be like faction based. So it will look for like filter through the different targets. In this case, we don't really need a target. So it'll just give us like the furthest distance. So it'll be like 100, 0. And the launch location is where the character is at. So this will, the location of, not this, the one, oh. This will return us like 100 meters away from where we're looking. Next, we're going to use this location for our fixed point displacement. And we'll have it terminate displacement. So with the duration, we'll just add hard fixed values here. We'll do 2.5 duration, 2 attenuation duration, and displacement speed of 10. What this does is it will go at 10 meters per second for 2.5 seconds, and then it'll take 2 seconds to go to 0 velocity. So we got the actual character moving. We actually then need to add a unit status, which is we need to associate our character to the launch status. So the launch status uses, let's see, the launch status here. It uses our stacks as the duration. So we can just hard code this 25 stacks for 2.5 seconds. And then we also want to remove the unit status. Do we? No, we don't. We're not doing it here. We're adding it here. No, we are. No, we do need to remove the unit status. We're removing self. We're removing this one. Removing the float status. No longer floating. We've launched. And yeah, so this would then remove the unit status, and it would also remove the character skill. Excellent. So the last thing we actually also want to remove is this hidden and float status. And we want to do that when the launch duration has ended. So we need another status node graph. Again, Liyue launch status. And let me associate this before I forget. I forgot it like 10 times already. Go, let's associate it. And unit status end. When it ends, for whatever reason, we'll just when it branch. Unit status. Self. The status we're removing is this one, hidden and float. Removal method. We want all the status with that name. Stack with fast stack on? No, just all everything. All if there is somehow 2 instances of it, we want it all removed. Excellent. Now we're gonna cover some edge cases here. Within Traversal, it's possible we're in the launching state, and we go to another of the scan tags, we go to another sigil. We want to remove that. Let's see, in this case, we want to remove the launch state. Actually, in that case, yeah, in the launch status here, we're just gonna remove this part. As long as the launch is removed, we're removing the unit status. Yeah. So let's review. You know what? Let's just test it. One of the easiest ways to see if I did something wrong is just let's test play. Let's play and see how it works. Okay. Left click to launch. Launches with 2.5. It's fine. Try that again. Launching. Alright, let's check for the edge cases. For example, if we launch, we're launching, and I change. Okay? Works. Let's try launching, going to the Liyue. Okay. The character hidden needs to stay. Character hidden got removed. It should have been added back in. Let's take a look. So the reason why you can see it is because we have this on. We removed it. 135. No, we don't add it here. When do I add the thing? Is it in the traversal? What was this? Status node graph. We're traversing. What's 133? 133 is. Oh, this is when it ends. 132 and 134. Oh, what I'm missing here? I think I'm missing the 134. Oh no, oh yeah, 135. So there's a bit. Okay, so I'm removing the launch here, and then when the launch is removed, then it removes this, which could potentially so there might be some parallel execution going on here. It gets a bit tricky. Actually, there is. The reason why there is this weird parallel execution is because this traversal is a client-side node graph. So these are some of the things you want to pay attention to. This is a client-side node graph, and this here is a server-side node graph. So what's actually happening in the background is we launched, we're in the launch state right now, and the node graph goes here. We try and go back to a Liyue sigil, a Liyue Fish thingy, and it removes the launch state. Okay, launch state is removed, and then we go ahead and apply the fixed point displacement and whatnot. But then the server side does it a bit later. We send it to the server, and there's a bit of latency because the server's not in my house. Now the server then runs this and removes it. So that means when we add in the hidden and float one, it gets removed on the server. So that means we probably don't. We probably want the reason. You know what? There would. Let's put it back in. Put it back in here. However, we will remove this ourselves. So let's kind of shift everything over. Shift everything. Another thing we want to remove is the hidden and float state. And the hidden float state is 1 free. Yeah, double check. Hidden float. Yeah, this is the correct one. Okay. So whenever we execute, as long as we're hitting a scan tag, it will remove. See, 1 free is 1 free. So remove the float state. Oh, we're removing already. Are we? Oh, I don't need this then. Okay. Yeah, it will remove the float state. It will remove the hidden and float. It will remove the launch. Right. Okay. Launch it out. Go back. Yep, that looks good. Launch. Okay, there was a bit of visual glitch just now that has to do with the whole kind of like the unit size change. So we won't account for that for now. Yeah, that visual glitch is us removing the hidden state. We can actually let's try to avoid having that visual glitch. Let's only remove the hidden and float if we're going the Liyue path. So it's this one. I grabbed the wrong. Grab this out. This one's the float. Actually, you know what? You really should. I should really put in the. Because you can't really tell what the config ID is. This one is the launch. And when we do this, oh, we already are removing. Okay. Yeah, it can get a bit messy. And it gets easily messy when you forget what all these are. It's a lot easier. Yeah. Right, 134 is hidden afloat. But this one's actually can get messy, and having these notes, you can actually drag them out so they're not hidden. So you can see exactly what's going on. This is very handy. Or you can keep it like attached to it, like that. But this way, you know, okay, I'm removing Liyue Traversal here. I'm it just for the sake of it, for making things more readable. This is Sumeru Traversal. Oh, I think I can just copy this. Oh, I'll have to make my separate note. Liyue Traversal. So, let's see. Float. Oh, hidden float. Then what is this? This one's the Sumeru Traversal, right? Sumeru Traversal. So yeah, having notes makes it easy for you to visualize and see what's actually going on. Because even for me, when I'm looking at it, I'm not sure. I know I'm removing something, but there's a lot of unit stats involved. It makes it a lot more clear. These two kind of states are more of the special ones that, because you can be in either of these states easily, and they're, yeah. Let's just test it. See if there's still the visual glitch of us changing between launch. Let's see. Shoot it out. Fine. Fine. Here. You can adjust the speed if you want to. It is a bit slow, but it's easier for me to demonstrate. Otherwise, I'll have skill issues in trying to like move between these things. Much.